ask yourself one question. Do I feel lucky? Well, do you?
It's time to flip a coin and find out.
Well, we need to know what we're calling for here.
We're calling it to see who's got the best sports knowledge here on the Coin Flip with Martin Kelly
and Jacob Zimmerman.
Flip it again. And welcome on back. It's the Coin Flip Podcast. Jacob Zimmerman, Martin Kelly. We are back for a special edition. We're finally talking about the NBA once again. Martin, we've been waiting for quite some time. I know most years it seems the NBA offseason takes quite a while, although there's a lot of entertaining news to keep us involved, keep us making some content every now and then. But Martin, this year we've been so up to date with the NFL, doing our Week 8 predictions, Week 7 reaction coming up here in just a couple days. We'll drop that. Who knows? Maybe it's already out by now by the time you are watching this video. But the NBA, we were recording this on Monday night. It kicks off Tuesday, and a lot of people take their time. They like to slowly ease themselves into the NBA scene. They might not even check the standings until Christmas time. Martin, we're not going to do that. We're going to kick things off. We're going to beat the season start just by a hair, and we are giving you our season predictions for the 2023-2024 regular season specifically. We are starting off with our standings. We are going to predict 1 through 10. It's not 1 and 8 anymore because they got the play-in. The play-in has added a new wrinkle in years past. We got the mid-season tournament. Who the heck knows what's going to happen with that? But Martino, I'm going to bring you in here. We are about to talk about our NBA 1 through 10, Western Conference, Eastern Conference. Then we're going to go with our season predictions for the awards, of course. Stuff like Coach of the Year, MVP, DPOY, who's going to win Rookie of the Year, everything to Most Improved and Sixth Man of the Year we'll touch on for a little bit as well. Martin Kelly, how you doing, man?
Not too bad, not too bad. Excited to talk about another NBA season. Let's see what happens this year.
Martin, without further ado, the style we're going to kick things off with, I'm going to talk about the West. I'm going to give my 1 through 10, some slight reasonings why I have teams in there in certain spots, and while maybe some teams will miss it completely. And then, Martin, you're going to react. You're going to give your West. We'll go to the East, and so on. You ready to go?
10-4, let's do it, buddy.
Starting off in the Western Conference, similar to last season, Martin, I got the Denver Nuggets at the 1 spot. I don't see a world where the Nuggets fall off. I don't think they're going to have a sluggish regular season. Now, we have seen some championship teams coming off a ring in recent memory, go into the next season and dominate in the regular season. We've also seen it kind of play out the opposite, where it takes them a little bit of time, October, November, January, to really get things cooking. But I think Nikola Jokic just has so much momentum going for him right now. I think Jamal Murray has plenty in his head left to prove, work his way up the point guard ranks currently in the NBA. A guy like Aaron Gordon, he wants to have another nice season. Michael Porter Jr., I still think there's a ton of untapped potential with him in the Denver Nuggets, despite losing some key role players who helped them in pivotal moments last year. I got the Denver Nuggets still winning a crap ton of regular season games. I'm not sure how many they will win, but they're going to win a lot. They're going to be number 1 in the Western Conference. Martin, I got the Los Angeles Lakers behind him at number 2. I think Austin Reeves, this is his time to shine. Thinking about a guy named Austin Reeves, if I told you 2 years ago, Martin, that Austin Reeves, going into the 2024 season, a guy you probably never heard of at the time, was maybe going to be the lead ball handler half the game on a LeBron James-led team. It's unheard of, it's crazy, but most importantly, Martin, when the Lakers don't start a season with Russell Westbrook, they are crazy. They are insane. They're unstoppable. This is going to be 2020 all over again with some different role players who I think might be even better. I mean, Rui Hachimura, he's got a nice season up and coming ahead of him. Guys like Jackson Hayes, Christian Wood, filling in the backup center spot, play a pivotal role this year for AD in the minutes that he can come in. Guys like Jared Vanderbilt, Cam Reddish, if they can just hit that corner jump shot, they're going to find a way to stay on the floor. But all in all, I think LeBron James, I think Anthony Davis are going to have quite good seasons. I think they're going to stay healthy. They'll play the 64 they need to get All-NBA. Martin, the Lakers are going to be the 2 seed. 3, I got the Phoenix Suns. I'll kind of kick things into high gear here. The Suns are just going to score a lot of points. Now, they might give up 150 on multiple occasions this season. We might see the NBA's highest scoring ever game be reset with the Phoenix Suns this year. It could happen. But Martin, I see no way that the Phoenix Suns miss the playoffs. I also see it hard for them to be the overall number 1 seed in the West. They are missing a true point guard, but nevertheless, they're going to score a ton of points. Beal's there. KD's there. Booker's there. Booker is in line to score, 25, 30 points again this season. Beal, if he finds any way to, make his presence valuable, the Suns will be right up there at the 3 spot. Martin, here's a team that a lot of people don't know what's going to happen to. I got the Sacramento Kings at number 4. This is going to surprise a lot of people. They were 3rd last year. And while they, out-conditioned, were more healthy, stayed off the IR compared to a lot of other teams, a lot of other big market teams to be in fact, Martino, I think the Sacramento Kings have the tools. They have the structure. That's something that they really missed the last, our entire lives up to last season. Any sort of consistency, and I think De'Aaron Fox, we have to remember who De'Aaron Fox was in college coming out of the draft, and who he is now. He's lived up to the hype. He's lived up to the expectations. Domantas Sabonis, he's a regular season stud. He's going to get it done until he gets into a tough playoff scenario. I think the Murray kid, I think Chris Murray, I think it's Keegan Murray, actually. The twin brothers out of Iowa. I get those two confused from my time spent out there, covering the Hawkeyes. But Keegan Murray for the Sacramento Kings, I think he will have a jump, if not match what he did last year, which was pretty solid, a Rookie of the Year candidate indeed. All in all, I think Sacramento will stay solid at home. They'll light the beam plenty of times, enough to get them a top 4 seed in the West once again. Martino, I got the Warriors at number 5. I cannot count them out. As much as I want to see a world where Steph Curry does not pass LeBron in rings, or a world where he just continues to match him in championships, they have some pieces, man. But I don't know if those pieces are going to be enough to get them a top 4 seed in the West. It'll be close. 3 through 10 might be, nip and tuck like it was last year, Martin. But I think the Warriors will fill in at that 5 spot. Steph Curry can pretty much automatically bid you into the playoffs. I think Wiggins will have a bounce back year if he can stay out of the personal issues and stay healthy on the court. And all in all, even the old Warriors, even Clay and Dre, will still provide some leadership. Martin, number 6, another surprise team maybe in the playoffs. I got the Dallas Mavericks with a bounce back here. We can't seriously expect Luka frickin' Doncic to miss the playoffs, to miss the play-in twice in a year, can we? And if he gets into the play-in, which they very well could, I'm not going to bet against him in a lose-or-go-home type game. Not at all. Luka Doncic is going to be enough to get them the 6th seed. They're going to be quite horrid on defense. Martin, Kyrie Irving or Luka Doncic might go for 75 plus. I feel like we're going to see maybe one of these two have the highest NBA scoring game since Kobe Bean Bryant scored 81. At the 7 spot, a team that's year in, year out as of late, been really solid in the regular season. But I think this year they're going to take a step back, at least in the A2, and that's the Memphis Grizzlies, Martin. John Morant's going to miss some time. They've been really good without him. But that's when Tyus Jones is at point guard, and he's not there. Marcus Smart, while I think he's still one of the best perimeter defenders in all of the NBA landscape, Martin, this guy, when it comes to leading an offense, is quite questionable, and he's not the guy you want to have be your number 1 ball handler in an offense. Even in the regular season, Bane can start great. Triple J can have a nice season. Clark's going to be missing time. Steven Adams is out the entire season, Martin. That was just broken yesterday. I got the Grizzlies at number 7. And rounding out the playoff teams, we'll cover on the 9 and 10 here in just a sec. I got the Thunder, Martin. Your Oklahoma City Thunder. I think Shai Gilgeous-Alexander will have another season quite similar to the one he just had. I don't see his numbers changing a whole lot. I don't see the overall story of this team changing a whole lot. Now, a lot of people are making the kind of the hot pick of the NBA offseason is to predict the Oklahoma City Thunder as a top 4 seed in the West. I don't think that will quite happen, but I think they'll have a nice season. And, Chet Holmgren, this is going to be his rookie year. I think he's going to have some nice highlight plays, some games where he's great, some games where he doesn't just quite fit in yet. And because of that, I can't put the Thunder any higher than the 8th spot. 9 and 10, some huge question marks with these two teams. The Pelicans at number 9 with Zion. If you tell me Zion's healthy for the entire season, they are a lock to make the playoffs. The Timberwolves, I just think the Karl-Anthony Towns, Rudy Gobert matchup or tandem, it's kind of a nightmare matchup against a lot of these teams, both ways. It could be a nightmare for the Timberwolves. It can be a nightmare for some of these other teams. Anthony Edwards, he could go out there and average 35 points a game for crying out loud, but there's too many problems for the Wolves, in my opinion, to put them in the playoffs. And Martin, that's my 1 through 10 of the Western Conference. That means the Los Angeles Clippers didn't even make the play-in. That's right. Martin, your reaction before you go into your Western Conference 10.
I think it's a very good list from your perspective. Obviously, there's Laker fandom all over that list to put them at number 2. That's my only bone to pick with that entire list. The Clippers, maybe, maybe not. You're not wrong there. There are some question marks with that team. But to transition over to my top 10 for the Western Conference, we have the same number 1. It's the Denver Nuggets. Number 2 for me would probably be the Phoenix Suns. I think their roster with the big 3 is just better than the Lakers too. Number 3 for me would be the Golden State Warriors. I feel like Chris Paul is actually a good piece for the Golden State Warriors and opens up a lot of offense for them. Number 4 would be the Lakers. I think they're rounding out the top 4. They're still one of the best teams in the league. Obviously, Darnell Ham can do something, even though he's probably not the most top-tier coach in the league. Number 5 would be Sacramento. They're a solid team, but I still think they're the Kings. And the Kings always have that reputation of showing so much potential, but never living up to it totally and fulfillingly. So I think we'll see them succeed, but I think they'll be on the road for the playoffs. Number 6, I put the Clippers there at number 6. I just think at the end of the day, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, Russell Westbrook, for even a marginal 60 games, is still enough to make the playoffs and have a respectable record, because we already know those 3 will sit out for some games, and this will test Ty Lue's ability to see how depth his team is and how far they can go when they have those 3 out for some games. So I still think they're good enough to make the playoffs. Number 7 would be my Thunder. They're going to take a big step this year. They got everybody healthy. Chet Holmgren looks good. We'll see what he does. Number 8 would be the Grizzlies. I think they take a step back, not just from the injuries and not just from Ja Morant's situation, but I don't think this coaching staff has any control over that team whatsoever. It's street ball style, go out there and make a play every time and just see what happens. I don't think that's a success in the NBA. Number 9, I'm going to say the Pelicans. I agree with you. If Zion is out there, they're a top 5 team, but Zion is not out there, so they are a respectable team, but not a playoff team. And then number 10, I'm going to throw a curveball out there, and I'm going to go with the Utah Jazz. I'm going to say the Jazz because Jordan Clarkson, Lauri Markkanen have proven that they could be a solid 1-2. And the Utah Jazz showed that they can play competitive basketball. They need some more help with scoring, but maybe they made some draftable decisions that will help with that situation. I don't think they'll be a top 8 team, but I think the Jazz can sneak right in there and make the play in. And yes, I'm saying Dallas misses the playoffs because we saw the small marginal piece where we saw what it was like with Kyrie and with Luka, and I don't think you can just fix that in one off season. I don't think you can convince Kyrie Irving to control his emotions and his thoughts off the court. I think Luka is getting sick and tired of the Dallas situation. I think Dallas is maybe getting tired of Luka as well. I just think it's too much of a tire fire to overcome, and I think they miss the playoffs. So that's my list.
Martin, I like the list. Kind of agreed with the first 6 teams or so, and that's the West. Let's jump on now over to the Eastern Conference. Martin, I have the Boston Celtics winning the most games in the NBA coming up. I think when you look at their actual rotation, there are 10 guys in rotation. Let me try to pull it up to get you all the exact names, but Martin, Jason Tatum's at, towards the top of the MVP race the last couple of seasons. You could argue this season might be his best bet to win it. You got a motivated Jaylen Brown, who, to be honest, the fan base, even of the Celtics, has turned against this guy. And they're forgetting that he was the best player in the finals 2 seasons ago. You got Kristaps Porzingis coming off of a career year in Washington. Now, I get it. This guy, one bad landing and he's going to be done for the year. Or, one wrong thing said to him and his confidence could go when it comes to his shooting stroke. But there's a lot of regular season positive vibes I see, immediately from getting rid of Robert Williams to adding Kristaps Porzingis. Boston shoots the 3 really well in the regular season. They might shoot it even better this year. I said the Bucks, right when that trade went down, we're going to win a crap ton of games. I think the Celtics are going to find a way to win even more. Going to the Bucks here, speaking of the Bucks, at that second spot in the Eastern Conference. I think it'll take a couple months for Milwaukee to figure out their new pick and roll. Now, I think this will be the most deadly pick and roll, maybe outside of Murray and Jokic in the NBA currently. But it takes time for guys to kind of grasp a new role. Dame is now going to have a lot higher expectations than he's ever had. When you look at the depth, Martin, I just don't see the depth there on the team anymore. Getting rid of Grayson Allen, Brook Lopez probably isn't what he was last year or the year before. Bobby Portis, who knows what he's going to give you this year. There's some question marks about the Bucks, but all in all, Giannis is maybe the best regular season player in the NBA currently, and I got Milwaukee at number 2. Coming in at number 3, Martin, I think because the Cleveland Cavaliers had a good regular season last year, and a lot of their stars are so young, it's hard to say that the Cavs won't improve in the regular season again this year. Now, are they ready to take that step to legitimately be competitive against the likes of Milwaukee, the likes of Boston, even Philadelphia on their best day? I'm not sure if they're ready. But one thing I am ready for is the Cleveland Cavaliers to perhaps win 50 games this year. Martin, they have some huge question marks on their roster. Can Jarrett Allen and Evan Mobley find a way to put the ball in the basket more? Can Darius Garland somehow improve as a defender? What are guys like George Niang and Max Strus going to be like on the Cavs? Is there hot shooting moments that they have in the NBA are just all of a sudden going to disappear? Because we've seen a lot of great shooters go to the Cleveland Cavaliers in years past, and they just fall off a cliff. They also have some sneaky young talent, other than their main young stars. Imani Bates. I wonder if Imani Bates is going to actually get some playing time, some PT on this Cleveland Cavaliers team. And they could actually use him as a spot-up guy from three. He seems to be, a guy who likes to take a lot of shots off the dribble, but, he can shoot the ball. That's why he's in the NBA. I think the Cavs are going to have some nice shooting around their stars. I got them in third. Knicks, I'm going to put them in fourth. And I don't really have a huge justification on the Knicks, but I think they've found a way with Tom Thibodeau, with how they're playing. Julius Randle, I have some serious gripes on this guy as a player, but that's in the postseason. I think Jalen Brunson, the point guard that they've signed the last season, totally caught everybody off guard. And while I think the NBA might adjust to him a little bit, the Knicks are still going to win some games. I got them at the fourth spot. Quickly's the favorite to win Sixth Man of the Year. I think the Knicks have established themselves as above average. Fifth, I got the Philadelphia 76ers. And Martin, kind of as almost a 76ers hater, I can call myself, for good reason. It's not enough to put them in the play-in. James Harden very well might be gone. I think he's done. And that whole debacle, that drama, we've seen this play out similarly before with Ben Simmons. But Embiid, didn't let that affect him in the regular season at least. He still rattled off 48 wins or so. Now Maxey, if he's going to be your legit number one, he may have, an adjustment to make being that legit number one ball handler on offense. But Tobias Harris's contract's just soaking up that entire roster. They need some more help around Embiid or he's going to get out of there. I got 76ers at 5. The Miami Heat, I almost forgot about them when making the list. I had my 1 through 10 in the East, and I realized the Heat weren't on there. And that was not going to be acceptable with Coach Spoelstra still at the helm and Jimmy Butler fresh off his RAR XD media day. Martin, I think the Heat will do enough. They'll do enough. They might be in a situation like last year where they're fighting for the playoffs, but I don't quite see it. I think they're going to feel the urgency a lot earlier in the season. They're going to look up in the conference and realize we don't have as good a shot as we did last season to get back to the finals. We need to kick it into gear early. That way we don't have as tough of a playoff road. The 7 spot, I got the Brooklyn Nets. I think the Brooklyn Nets, I think I've seen their over-under, Martin, is like 36.5. That might be my play of the year. I just think they have a legitimate, I'm just going to say it. They're the best perimeter defensive team in all of basketball. When you have Dorian Finney-Smith, when you have Mikal Bridges, when you have Ben Simmons on the floor, that is the most terrifying wing defensive team you could possibly create in the NBA. They might not score over 100 very often, but they're going to hold teams to, in the 80s, 90s, some of these games. It's going to happen. Nick Claxton, if this guy can just make a... Martin, I think I've seen you make more free throws at a higher rate than Nick Claxton, and that's saying something, no offense. I got the Nets at number 7. The Hawks in the 8th spot. Now, the Hawks are a tricky team to gauge, Martin, because, a lot of people like to, harp on Trae Young. He's one of the worst defenders in the NBA. He's not as efficient as he should. But when you look at the advanced numbers, you look at how his supporting cast over the last couple of seasons plays off ball when they spot up, they're all statistically advanced, not good. John Collins can roll to the rim and posterize anybody in the league. That guy cannot play off ball, outside of the PNR. DeJounte Murray, he's a great defender. On the defensive side, he's a good fit. The offensive side, he's not actually a very good fit next to Trae Young. And until they solidify, they've made some adjustments, but I need to see those adjustments play out in real time. I got to keep the Hawks towards the bottom of the playoff standings. I got the Pacers as a nice story at number 9. I think, you know, at certain times in the season, I could see the Indiana Pacers, having some months in the NBA season where they're still in the middle of the Eastern Conference, in the middle of the playoff picture. I'm talking 4-5 range. They could get up there, but I think late in the season, when some of the other stars turn it on, I think they'll fall. I think Halliburton could have an argument for MIP. Who knows what's going to happen with Obi Toppin, how many East Bays between the legs he's going to throw down mid-game. I got the Pacers at 9, especially with Bruce Brown there. And I got the Magic at number 10. I think the Magic will get it together. Franz Wagner. You got some young, nice players there alongside Paolo Banchero as well, for sure. They've had a tandem of guards there for quite some time. They're just waiting on one of them to pop. They might need to, be bad again, get the next, highly recruited point guard out of the draft. But I got the Magic squeaking at number 10. So, Martin, Celtics, Bucks, Cavs, Knicks, 76ers, Heat, Nets, Hawks, Pacers, Magic is my 1 through 10 in the East.
Okay. So leaving my Chicago Bulls off, doesn't expect DeRozan and Levine to be strong enough to make the playoffs. I disagree with that. The rest of the list, I don't hate. I don't hate the teams that are on the list. I think the Magic might overachieve, but I don't think they'll overachieve that much if they make it to the 11th seed. I think that'll be a good season for the Heat. Excuse me, for the Magic. I apologize. My number 1 is the Milwaukee Bucks. I think this Dame Lillard and Giannis and Middleton, combination will figure itself out. I agree. Their depth is a little thinned out, as it's not as deep as they were when they won the finals 3 years ago. So they are showing that they have fallen off just a tad, but still, nonetheless, I think the Dame Giannis connection will work for the number 1 seed. Number 2 will be the Boston Celtics. They are that good. I still talks about Kristaps Porzingis, about his efficiency, about his effectiveness on the court. Number 3, I got the Cavaliers as well. I'll agree with you on that one. Donovan Mitchell, can he finally, make that next move to where he legitimizes that his ability to carry a small team and overachieve can be success in the playoffs? Every time he does it in the regular season, it's nice to see, but every time he falls short in the playoffs, it just proves that he's just some hype and he doesn't know how to finish, and that's kind of something that hangs over him. Number 4, I'm going to say... Number 4, I'll say the 76ers. They'll still be good enough, regardless of the situation with James Harden, to take that number 4 spot. They won't take that much of a dip, but Embiid is getting to be 31. Tyrese Maxey is a good player, but what do they do with him, really? And, obviously they're stuck with Tobias Harris, so what do they do with him as well? It's really a question mark with them. Number 5 is the Knicks for me. They're talented. Jalen Brunson proved that the money is worth it. They made some changes with letting Obi Toppin go, so there's some stability in New York, but is it sustainable? I'm not sure, but I think it's good enough to finish in the top 5. 6 is the Heat. They take a next step. I think Jimmy Butler is on this revenge tour in gothic mode and is getting everybody fired up because he's mad that they didn't get Dame Lillard, and maybe he goes on a surplus in the regular season. Number 7, I'm going to say the Nets as well. The Nets are a good enough team. They can rebound well. They can play defense. It's about their offense, really. We'll see what happens with them. I'm going to throw a wild card out there. I think the Hornets take a step where they make it into the play-in. And I say they make it into the play-in because LaMelo Ball has proven that he can play well. We'll see what, I think it's Scoot Henderson they drafted. We'll see what Henderson does and all of that. I think they're just, offensively, they're talented. They just need to take a couple more steps. Number 9, I'll put the Bulls there. I think DeRozan and Levine are good enough with a matchup to be the 1-2 and get the Bulls in the playoffs. They did it last year. I expect them to do it again as well. I think the Bulls are not well run and are holding themselves back, but I don't have the money and I don't pay the bills, so I just got to go with what's on the court. And number 10, I'll put the Hawks there. They're talented. Trae Young's fun to watch, But I don't know. There's just something missing in Atlanta, and it doesn't seem like they're going anywhere with it. It's fun to watch Trey Young and his 3-point shot highlights, but at the end of the day, wins count more in this league than highlights. So we'll see what happens, but that's my top 10.
Martino with some similarities to me in the list. We flip-flopped on the Bucks and the Celtics. We had the 76ers kind of in the middle of there. Martin, you put in my hometown Charlotte Hornets at the 8 spot. That is really something, dude. That is a hot, scorching hot take. That must mean Miles Bridges just turns into a saint. And Kai Jones finagles his way back onto the team, stays out in trouble, and LaMelo Ball has a season for the ages. But Martin, speaking of seasons for the ages, how about the MVP odds? On screen right now, Nikola Jokic is the favorite at plus 450. Luka Doncic is second. Giannis is third. Embiid fourth. Tatum fifth. Martin, the MVP, the most valuable player. Are you ready to get into our awards?
Yes, I am. Can I say something real quick about what we're just seeing on screen, just by the names that you're just showing me on the screen?
Yep.
Can you I know you're a basketball fan. Can you see anybody on that list that's under 6'5"? I can only count 3 players that are under the height of 6'5". I mean, 5 of the top players are all above the height of 6'7". I mean, the Giants have just taken over the game after supposedly all the small shooting guards destroyed them and out position themselves out of the league. The Giants are back in charge.
They certainly are, Martin, and the narrative that the big man has gone away is just a false narrative. It's that the big man has learned to do things other than foul and rebound. Martin,
Exactly.
MVP. This is not going to be the hottest take I'm going to have. I think maybe our next award is going to be slightly hotter. But maybe according to the odds, this might be the hottest take, and I think it's disrespectful that my MVP is not even on this frickin' list. Martin, this shouldn't even be a surprise to you. I got Anthony Davis winning the 2023-2024 Kia MVP of the National Basketball Association. Martin, he came in at number 4 in my top 25. A lot of my buddies had a problem with that. But man, they're going to have a problem this year if Anthony Davis did what he did last year in the postseason. We're talking about a guy who is going to easily put up 26 and 10 with 2 blocks. I mean, LeBron, just saying, Anthony Davis, please take the torch. Please. Kobe gave it to me when I came to LA. And AD, it's now your time to lead the squad. I think this just comes down to the Lakers. Like I said, the 2 seed, they don't have Russell Westbrook to start the season alongside LeBron and AD. They have spot-up guys ready to pull the trigger. They got defenders all around them. AD has legitimate backups that can play around this guy. But Martin, let me start to tear apart some of these cases for some other MVPs we're seeing on the list right now. Nikola Jokic, why in the world would Jokic not win in the season that he was robbed, in the season that Kendrick Perkins perhaps changed the entire MVP landscape with one sentence? Martin, I think perhaps slightly the I don't know what it is. The voter fatigue is still there. People are saying, well, Jokic can't win 3 in a row. He's not good enough. Well, he proved he was good enough, but I still feel like there's going to be some people here and there saying, Jokic 3 MVPs, it doesn't quite sit right. But the real story here is that, Martin, I don't know how much touching of a basketball Nikola Jokic did over the offseason. Now, he could have touched the ball not a single time, and the Nuggets still would get the 1 seed. But think about what the MVP is, right? When you establish yourself as a legitimate all-time great while you're still playing and still in your prime, and the MVP is a narrative-driven award, Martin, Jokic is competing against his numbers from last year. And that's going to be really hard to beat. It's going to be really hard to put up a borderline triple-double on, borderline 50, 45, 90 splits. And if he's competing against that, if he's competing against himself, whether you like it or not, the narrative is just not going to feed to Jokic. Embiid, Martin. There's no way they're going to give it to Embiid after what he did in the postseason again. Giannis, they might say he has too much help with Dame. Luka, I don't think will finish as high in the seeding. Jason Tatum might steal this award at plus 800. That's actually a really smart bet. But I think the Celtics, people just need to realize the Celtics are the deepest team in basketball for a reason. And when you're the deepest team in basketball and your star isn't quite on the same level as these other guys, you got to remember that in the MVP voting as well. KD could win it, but I think he has too much help. If Steph Curry's top 3, top 2, he could get another regular season MVP. Shea's not going to be on a good enough team. LeBron probably won't put his foot on the gas pedal. So I can pick apart all these names on the list. But if Anthony Davis just goes out there and plays 64 games, the award is his. Martin, who's your MVP?
Well, I shouldn't be shocked that it's obviously Laker fandom all over the MVP. Anthony Davis, we'll see what happens. My questions have always been and still will be about the health. You know that. We've been talking about that since day one, since we started doing podcasting. If he can play more than 50 plus games, I'll stop talking about it, but I haven't seen it yet. I haven't seen that bubble Anthony Davis in a long time. Yes, we saw some of it in the playoffs, but once he got matched up against a team that could throw it back to him, he got a little bit schooled. My MVP, well, if I wanted to go off of just sheer just homerism or with true, love for OKC Thunder, I would say Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, but I think he's going to be the next award, MIP. I think that's the award he's going to win that this year, not the MVP. A realistic answer between Jokic, Giannis, Embiid, Tatum, Booker, LeBron. I don't think Kevin Durant and Steph Curry will be involved in the conversations, regardless of how good they do in the regular seasons. Kevin Durant will be too hurt. Steph Curry is Steph Curry. His legacy is already solidified and locked in. What the hell? I'll say Nikola Jokic wins it again. I think Jokic, excuse me. I think Jokic is the most perfect definition of what basketball is. I mean, the passing ability, the swaggerness, the belief, the touch. I mean, it doesn't matter if he's touched a basketball or not. He just looks like a basketball player. He looks like what players can be. I mean, he's not athletically fit. He's not athletically sharp. I mean, he's not. I don't know what he is. I mean, still there's question marks about what he is. He's just some odd player that's just so fantastic at every single thing in the game: passing, shooting, dribbling. I'm just like amazed by his abilities. Jokic is just Jokic, and the Giants, like I said earlier in this part, the Giants are taking the game back. I mean, Giannis, Embiid, Jokic, those are some of your last 3 MVP winners. I mean, yes, it was fun to watch the Westbrooks and the Harden and the Curry days, and that was exciting to see how fast and how much those guys would put up, but to see the physicality and the dominance of what the Giants and the big men used to do in the game is fun to see come back, so I think Jokic wins MVP.
A safe pick, maybe the pick that every NBA bettor should be making right now. On over to the Defensive Player of the Year, Martin. Here is where I think I will have the hottest take of our little preseason episode here on the Coin Flip Podcast, Jacob and Martin. Martino, Defensive Player of the Year. It's never been done until this season. Victor Wembanyama is going to win Defensive Player of the Year and Rookie of the Year. Lock it in both. I don't see any world where this guy doesn't average 3 blocks a game. I mean, Martin, he blocked Andrew Wiggins shooting a wing 3 practically from the paint. I mean, this guy jumped up and scraped the dust off the top of the backboard, which is no problem. This guy's insane. I think he's going to easily average over 2.5 blocks, and I think because of his length, he's going to average easily over a steal a game. You put that together to somewhere close to steals plus blocks, aka stocks. He's going to be around 4 stocks a game. Martin, that's Defensive Player of the Year worthy. I think the narrative, I think the media is going to be all over this guy. We're going to see San Antonio have the most national games, they've had maybe in the last 3 years combined, just all in this season. If I didn't have the Spurs, in my 1 through 10, but I think Wemby is going to lead the Spurs to a top 10 defense without a doubt. I think they'll have some putrid offensive performances from his supporting cast there. They're still not anywhere close to being a contender, let alone a play-in team. But Martin, I think Victor Wembanyama can steal this award. He can come in there from an immediate impact the first couple months of the season when they're still playing teams on the schedule for the first time in rotation, especially some of those Eastern Conference teams, especially some of those Western Conference teams outside of their division. Playing against Wemby for the first time is going to be an adjustment. They're going to think they can get away with their typical layups, their typical off-the-dribble threes, and they're just going to get swallowed. Wembanyama can legitimately play on pick-and-roll defense, drop coverage, and be right there to pick up the ball handler at the same time. He's just that long. I got Wembanyama, probably snubbing AD from a well-deserved, again, Defensive Player of the Year. We're going to see what happens, but, I think Triple J will just foul too much, even if he is the 3-time blocks champ this year. Mobley has a really nice shot, but, let's face it, the media doesn't cover Cleveland unless LeBron James is playing there. And, I think history's on Wemby's side. I think he has the length to do it, Martin. I got Victor Wembanyama, another player who's not even in the rankings on Oddshark.com. Martin Wemby is going to win this.
I don't know if that's such a hot take. Obviously, what he did in the preseason is fun. I like, though, what Paul George and Draymond said on their podcast together that they did. There's a lot of stuff that Victor did in the preseason that I really don't think he's going to get away with in the regular season. He's gonna get a bit of a shocking surprise of how NBA players treat rookies, regardless of how tall they are. Obviously, we dealt with Yao Ming, and Yao Ming didn't really set any astronomical new records in the NBA, and he was the tallest player ever in the game. So obviously, Victor is different than Yao Ming. Those are two different players, but still, nonetheless, we'll see what Victor does. DOPY, Triple J won it last year. Mobley is a good one. Giannis has won a couple of those. He could win it again. Bam Adebayo I like, but he's not really a DOPY. He's just a solid big. Anthony Davis could if he, actually wanted to, accept his big man role, but he'd rather, think of himself as like a skinny Kevin Durant. Embiid is a decent pick. Rudy Gobert, we'll see what happens in Minnesota. Brook Lopez, I don't see that happening. And Drew Holiday and Mikal Bridges are just long shots because they're good defensive players. I'm going to go with... I'll go Embiid. I'll go Joel Embiid. I think regardless of how he does offensively, he's still a strong defensive player. He still puts up enough of a presence that teams are scared going down the lane because they know he's going to beat up on them and hit them and whack at them, and regardless of how many trips to the line. Embiid is a tough. I don't think he wins MVP, but I think he gets a consolation prize, which is the Defensive Player of the Year.
Martin, my pick for Rookie of the Year, but let me just, make some comments on some of these guys. I think Scoot being above Chet Holmgren is actually the right move in the odds. I think, a couple things have to happen for Scoot to come in and swoop this ROTY award away from Wemby. I think Wemby should be minus money to actually win this. Wemby should be favored over the rest of the entire pool. But Scoot Henderson, if they just accept that young guards need to get their shots up, need to make their mistakes, let this guy go out and play 38 minutes a night. Don't throw out Brogdon too much there. I know he's in Portland for the moment being, recording this podcast. Who knows where he could end up. But he's a backup point guard that plays a lot. Don't let that happen. Let's go out there and just chuck up shots. Green light on a bad team. Martin, Scoot Henderson, even in today's NBA, he could average well over 20. He could average as high as 22 points per game. We've seen what this guy's done in G League Ignite. But his efficiency will not be there. I don't think his defense will be quite settled in, and he's not going to be, spectacular enough as Wemby to win it. I think Chet Holmgren will have some moments where he looks Wemby-esque, but Chet Holmgren's going to struggle as an offensive player throughout the majority of the regular season in his rookie year. I expect defensively he's going to be what the Thunder need. As a help defender, I think if he's one-on-one in the post, no help, there could be some issues there with his size still. But I think Chet Holmgren will have a nice season. He'll make one of the rookie teams. And then Brandon Miller, he's a total wild card on the Hornets. I don't think Brandon Miller is going to get enough touches to win the award, especially with Melo running the show there. But yeah, Wemby's winning it.
I agree with that. Victor Wembanyama is going to win this award. I don't disagree with that. I meant Brandon Miller when I was talking about the Charlotte Hornets earlier, not Scoot Henderson. I apologize about that. I got a shocker, though, that's going to finish second in this one, and it's not Amin Thompson from the Houston Rockets. It's Asar Thompson from the Detroit Pistons. I know it's a long shot with that one, especially. I think he'll finish second because I think he's going to surprise people because something Detroit's always missed is this ability to have these stretch forwards kind of help out in the offensive sense. They tried it with Blake Griffin, but he wasn't enough of a presence to do that with Andre Drummond, so there was just not enough offense between both of those two to actually make a difference. I think Thompson gives him this ability to stretch it out as a strong, tall forward, and he can actually play guard a little bit off the ball. I think he makes a big presence in Detroit. I think Detroit makes a big step up this season from being like just basically a 15th-place bottom feeder to like a 11th or 12th seed team that just rises up a little bit because they're young. They're a little exciting with Cunningham and that young little squad. So I think they'll take a step up, but I think Thompson finished second in the rookies.
Martin, on to most improved player. And I won't spend too much time on this, Martin. There's a reason that I had one of these guys in my top 25 list, being Mikal Bridges of the Brooklyn Nets. 27 points a game in his games played on the Nets last year. I think he'll round out with a full 82 to roughly 24-25. The efficiency may dip just a bit. The defense is there. He doesn't even have to necessarily be the best perimeter defender on the team, although I think he's earned that name. Mikal Bridges is just too good of a basketball player in this perfect setting for him to just do whatever he wants. Jacques Vaughn has, a tightly run ship around there. We'll see if they can develop anything around Mikal Bridges, but I think this is his award to lose, and it looks like the odds agree with me. Maxi's got an opportunity. Poole's just going to be too inefficient, I think, to win. Cunningham's a total wild card off injury. Austin Reeves, I think he set his standards up pretty high in the playoffs, so I don't know if he can really improve that much upon what he's already done. Paulo Banchero, fresh off Rookie of the Year, probably not quite. This award really comes down to the criteria. Some years they go with, a random role player who has a nice spike. Other years they take a star who's kind of jumped from a star to a superstar. That might be a little bit more what it is this year with Mikal Bridges. Martin, this is his MVP or MIP to lose.
Yeah, I agree with that. Mikal Bridges is probably the safe bet with the most improved player. If I had to throw a second place, it'd be Shai Gilgeous-Alexander because I just don't think SGA will have enough to win MVP, so I think they'll throw it in the consolation prize of MIP. But Bridges is the favorite, so I go with that one.
Second to last award here before the Coaches Award. We're talking about Sixth Man of the Year, kind of irrelevant in the grand scheme. Martin, I don't even have a name written down here, so I'm just going to go with Derek White of the Boston Celtics. I think this might be the award where they say, all right, if the Celtics are the number one seed, by a mile, Drew Holiday's out there, but he's, arguably at the back end of his prime. Celtics are really deep in the forward spot. You could argue the guard spot, they're a little, they're missing some star power there, but Derek White certainly makes up for it. And his defensive capabilities are better than everybody on this list. So I think Derek White will win it at plus 1,200.
I'm going to throw a complete total left field one here. I'm just going to throw this out here because because this is fun as well. I'm going to say Chris Paul wins Sixth Man of the Year. I think for some reason he gels with that sixth team, the second team in Golden State, and he gels when he gets some playing time with the starters. He becomes a little reinvigorated because he doesn't have to play 40 minutes. He can play 16 minutes and not burn out his body, be ready for the playoffs. Chris Paul is Sixth Man of the Year.
Martin, Chris Paul would have been my lock for Sixth Man of the Year, except I don't think he's actually going to be a sixth man. I think he has made it clear, and he's going to continue to pout in the Warriors organization, and he will be kind of an honorary starter, Martin. He's going to start the game, kind of remove himself from Sixth Man of the Year polls, but he will be the first substitution and maybe play only about 28 minutes a night for the Dubs. On to Coach of the Year, Martin. Coach of the Year, to me, doesn't have enough zazz. It doesn't, the voters probably don't spend as much time on Coach of the Year as they do on some of these other awards. And I think kind of by default, I'm going to go with Joe Mazzulla to win Coach of the Year. I think he has the team to do it, and I think he has once again, the media campaign to do it. Because we saw with Ime Udoka, Martin, the buy-in defensively to Boston Celtics, and how this year with Coach Mazzulla, it just wasn't quite there. I think Joe Mazzulla and the Boston Celtics will have the best record in the NBA, and often that is the default. And so that's why I'll have Joe Mazzulla as my favorite. Your OKC coach, Mark Daigneault, I probably mispronounced that name. To be honest with you, Martin, I know a good amount about this young core, but I don't know enough about the coach himself to really go out there and make that prediction. OKC, from this perspective, once again, is it, kind of a top-tier candidate who takes, the leap, or is it a guy who comes out of nowhere and has a massive improvement? People are thinking the Thunder are going to jump several spots in the seeding. I think they'll jump just one or two. You can have a big improvement in the NBA and only win 5 more games. That's kind of just how it goes. That's how the league is. Adrian Griffin, rookie head coach, has the opportunity. It's there. I think he maybe too many stars on that team. Eric Spoelstra's always in the running, but Martin, the Heat just don't finish as good in the regular season. Michael Malone talked a lot of crap. Perhaps he can get the media to vote his way. But I think Joe Mazzulla wins this.
It was easy to go with Mark Daigneault. I think it's Daigneault. Both of our sayings could be wrong. I apologize, and all love to OKC Thunder fans. It would be fun to pick that one. I don't think Joe Mazzulla wins it. I don't think the Boston Celtics really take that big of a step. Taylor Jenkins, I think his name needs to be removed because I just don't think he has any control over the Grizzlies. Not Quinn Snyder, not JB Biggerstaff, though. That would be a fun story if Cleveland came out of nowhere. What the heck? I'll throw another dart out there, a left field one. I'll throw Adrian Griffin. If this Damian Lillard and Giannis thing really works out as well as it does, and they make it to the finals and they win the finals, Adrian Griffin deserves to be Coach of the Year.
And Martin, to finish off This episode of the Coin Flip Podcast, Jacob Zimmerman, Martin Kelly, once again catch our Week 8 predictions in the NFL, Week 7 reaction, as we always do each and every week. Martin, the game going on as we're recording this right now, 49ers and the Vikings will actually decide which one of us wins the week, so I haven't checked on that while we've been recording this. But Martin, to finish off the podcast, your outcome for the NBA title, we are 7+ months away. I'm not even sure how long the season goes. Until June, Martin, August to June. Who do you have winning in the finals in June?
This is a very simple one. I think this year we'll finally get the matchup we want to see, and that's the Denver Nuggets and the Milwaukee Bucks. Jokic versus Giannis, and Murray versus Lillard. I think history says the Western Conference is going to win this. They've won the most championships since 2000, since the Eastern Conference stranglehold as it was during the 90s with the Bulls. So favorite over towards the Nuggets, but I'm going to say the Milwaukee Bucks winning 6 games. The Milwaukee Bucks winning in their first year with Giannis and Damian Lillard.
Wow, nice prediction from Martin. Bucks and 6 over the Nuggets. The tale of two stars who complement themselves each other perfectly. Martin, it's hard to fade that. I also think the Boston Celtics will find a way once again to shoot themselves in the foot at the worst time. I think the Bucks will squeeze past a really tough Eastern Conference. And Martin, I think everybody knows who I have winning the NBA championship. I have been very consistent over the years, even back before AD got traded to the Lakers. Martin, I said that LeBron James is a walking contender. And, we can look at history, from, I believe, the 2012 season. There was an 11-year stretch up until last year where LeBron James won the title every year where his co-stars didn't get injured in the playoffs and the Warriors didn't have Kevin Durant, and he was actually on a team that was trying to contend. Now, coming to this season, they just lost to the Nuggets, and everybody's saying they got swept. Martin, they got swept, but they had 3 really close losses. They're going to find a way to do it. LeBron James is going to sum up every last little bit of his powers. Anthony Davis, his joints are, going to be heartstrings for me this year. I think Austin Reeves will pull through. I think the bench will be there. I think Darvin Ham somehow stays out the way, and the Lakers defeat the Milwaukee Bucks in the NBA championship. You heard it here first on the Coin Flip Podcast. That's Martin. I'm Jacob. Martin, any last thing you want to say before the NBA season starts on Tuesday?
Let's have fun NBA season. Let's see who's the last man standing.
Nuggets will defend their title. Lakers, Warriors, Celtics, Bucks. Maybe there's a team I didn't mention who will come out on top. They're all trying to grab the top spot in the NBA. But regular season coming up. We got a couple fun months ahead of us. But once again, we are keeping you tuned with NFL and NBA coverage for the foreseeable future here on the CFP. Martin, have yourself a great night.
Peace.